Hey, I'm Zach. I'm back, and here are my top 10 trends from this crazy week. Don't forget to subscribe. 10. This week, President, or should I say former President of Alabama State University, Gwendolyn Boyd, was ousted from that institution, going into a board meeting where she thought she was going to facilitate, and then by the end of the meeting, she was being escorted out of the building. And so for those that may not know, Alabama State University, like some other HBCUs, has struggled in years past with low enrollment numbers, their credit score dipping, financial issues. And let me go on record to say HBCUs are fundamental and important. My issue with this story is, whereas focus has solely seemingly been on the financial issues of the school, there has not been enough attention paid to the fact that the school is at risk of losing its accreditation. And before anything, I would argue that there needs to be quality instruction at Alabama State University so that accreditation is not even a point of concern. 9. This week was the national release of the small indie film Moonlight. The movie is about a coming of age story with the intersections of race and sexuality and drugs and socioeconomic status and what it means to be a man and masculinity and all that good stuff, right? A worthy story to be told, but I'm not quite sure the story was told. I read a review where it was like, oh, the creators didn't feel the pressure to fill in all and color in all the lines and tell all of the story. But I'm like, damn, can you connect at least 2 of the dots? And so I just felt like there was too much of me projecting onto the film and not enough of this film telling the story itself. I think it's a worthy film to go see. I encourage everybody to go support it, but I just was left wanting more. 8. I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say I am exhausted with this election cycle. We keep hearing these narratives of voter suppression. Not so surprisingly, there was another story this past weekend when the US Supreme Court upheld a ban on ballot collecting. And so the situation around this is, whereas before there was a law where campaigns could go out and collect the votes of citizens and deliver them to the polls, the US Supreme Court is saying no. And so your 96th grade aunt needs to get up and out to the polls in order to vote. Democrats are saying this is suppressing the vote. Republicans are complaining that no, it will lead to more fraud, although fraud is never pointed to. I just find it so funny that the same people that are always complaining about the system being rigged are the ones we always find with their finger on the scale, tipping it in their favor. 7. So this past weekend, the KIMCHI hit the fan as tens of thousands of South Koreans took to the street of Seoul to protest and demand that President Park of that country leave office. So here's the thing. President Park happens to be the first female president of South Korea. This past week, President Park found herself in a big scandal after it was reported that she was sharing classified documents with a friend. She was sharing classified documents with a friend through email. Sound familiar? Maybe she should hit up her girl Hillary Clinton to figure out how to delete an email or two. 6. This week we witnessed as another historic black church was the target of vicious acts of hate. A historic black church in Mississippi was vandalized and burned, and on the sides of the wall outside, spray painted "Vote Trump." And while we don't know who did this and who's responsible, as my Granny Frances used to always say, God don't like ugly. She used to also say, he ain't too fond of cute either, but I digress. The point being is, who's ever responsible for this, I am fully persuaded that they will get their due when it's all said and done. The silver lining, though, is that whereas a GoFundMe account was raised and the goal was to fund $10,000 for this church to rebuild and start growing again, over $200,000 was raised. Won't he do it? 5. All right, we all know Greece is a clusterfuck. We also know that Greece has been the home to the majority of the migrant crisis around the world. But it was reported this week that Italy is on track with approximately 160,000 migrants reaching their shores just this year alone to be the #1 home for migrants from Syria and Northern Africa and other places around the world that are journeying across dangerous waters, risking limb and life to seek a better life, right? So people in this country are all in a frenzy talking about a few hundred migrants coming to this country when it's a much bigger problem of impacting millions of people around the world. I think we need to do more. I think it would serve us all better if President Obama reframed the debate and stood in greater solidarity with our European friends and those that are all impacted by this crisis. 4. Millions of country-loving Americans came together to have a good old time in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Country Music Awards. And to our surprise, they requested that Beyonce headline the event. Not so surprising, she came, she slayed, she conquered. The next day, due to racist slurs all over their social media platforms, the Country Music Awards decided to erase old Mr. Clean Hillary Scrub so that there was no proof that Beyonce or the Dixie Chicks was even there, let alone performed. So while people are saying poor Beyonce and feeling sorry for her, and rightfully so, I think she was wrongly treated. At the end of the day, she won. While people with room temperature IQs were spewing hate and calling her nigger bitches online, she dropped a link to make more money. So in the words of Beyonce, the best revenge is your paper. 3. Research is on the brink of identifying the male pill, male birth control, which would help stop unwanted pregnancies and birth. And although it has been highly effective to about 97%, it was halted this week because a small portion of participants in the research trial complained of the side effects. About 20 out of 320 participants, just for perspective, they complained about headaches and depression and bloating and acne. And so, although that's unwanted, these are the same side effects that women have complained about since the beginning of time and that they still struggle through as they take birth control. And so if you're trying to go half on a baby, I think men in this trial as well as men everywhere need to woman up. 2. This week, the W flew high and proud over Wrigley Field as the Chicago Cubs ended a 108-year drought in winning the World Series, right? And so what followed was this amazing parade that in fact went on record to be the 7th largest gathering of humans in history. As a proud Chicagoan, I am beaming with pride and can only hope that this is the beginning of many more positive stories to come from my hometown. 1. Last Friday, American royalty knighted our next president. Jay-Z and Beyonce hosted Get Out the Vote concert in Cleveland, Ohio, and thousands of people there were on their feet celebrating these brilliant acts, but also engaging in this American tradition. And what's so brilliant about this is that it leans on this Du Bois concept of all art should be propaganda. And whereas Beyonce and Jay-Z have no concerns really in this election, either way, the outcome, they are materially gonna be okay, but yet they are using their star power to drive thousands of people to the poll. I think that is awesome. And so if I had any question after watching Beyonce and Jay-Z perform, I know for sure I am with her and Hillary too. Comments, questions, drop them below, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe.